Guys, I wanted to try to give you all another video. I've been busy on my farm trying to find high places that are sheltered from the wind where I can connect to my hotspot and I can send a video out. I want to talk to you all a little bit about the kingdom of Axum, and that's Axum or Aksum, same place. They are a kind of a south eastern kingdom in Africa that it's going to become very powerful in the 300s and even in the 200s based off of trade. They started off as an animist kingdom, you know. They looked at everything on the earth as having a spirit, you know, so trees and stones and mountains and that kind of stuff. And that's going to transition towards them being influenced by Jewish people who had come into the area. There's a lot of proto-Judaism that exists, which is going to make a transition to one of their markers that's culturally significant, being easy for the people of Axum, and that's the adoption of Christianity. They're going to be actually the world's first Christian kingdom. A guy in the 320s, 330s, his name is King Azana. He is going to come along and he is going to convert to Christianity, and the whole kingdom is going to come along with him. And so Christianity is central to this culture for how long it exists, for about 400 years. They're going to grow super wealthy based off of trade. And, you know, people in this area, Africa, they still count their wealth in cattle, and agriculture is going to be a huge deal in ancient Ethiopia. But they're going to also be a gateway that's going to bring goods from places like India and is going to bring them up into the eastern half of the Roman Empire. And even after Western Rome fell, you know, Axum is going to be powerful for centuries based off of trade. So they send exotic goods like ivory, they send cattle, they have a lot of gold. But they also are going to bring in like sugar and spices and cotton and stuff from India. And we find their coins all over the world, you know, India, Persia, etc. So very powerful when it comes to trade. And King Azana is going to turn them into that. There's a pagan tradition that had existed early on in Axum's history of building these giant obelisks that are called stelae or stela or steel. You know, there's a lot of pronunciation for it, but it's a giant obelisk. Think of the Washington Monument. I took like a second and I even sketched one for you. So here's a stele. And, you know, early on in pagan tradition, they're sort of grave markers for the important people in Axum society. But in Christian tradition, it's going to change. They're going to be looked at as a gateway for you getting to heaven, like a stairway to heaven that you can go up to meet the Lord after your death. And this is one of the biggest architectural archaeological sites in Africa. People visit it all the time to see these magnificent monuments that were built by the Axumite people. How do they get this trade into Eastern Rome and the Byzantine Empire? They get it there by traveling up the Red Sea, and they go past the Nile, you know, the places that used to be controlled by Nubia, which was that African Egyptian-like culture that existed under classical Egypt. Axum actually took Nubia over, and they're going to travel up the Red Sea, and they're going to get these things into what's going to become the Byzantine Empire. They learn Greek. They adopt all of the markers of civilization. You know, they're sort of a Afro-Eurasian culture in a lot of ways. And they trade out of a place called Adulis. It's a harbor city. It's very wealthy and it's very accessible. Now, what creates their decline? Well, they kind of try to get over into the Arabian Peninsula, and Islam has quite a stake over there. And in those conflicts, they're going to lose their access to those trade routes. And slowly, over time, coming up into the mid-700s, they're going to lose their territory and get smaller and smaller and smaller until they're sort of obsolete on the global trading network. The people of Axum never go away. There's still a huge tradition of those original people that had moved into the Ethiopian highlands, and they have these Christian communities that exist there. Ethiopia is a Christian country in modern Africa. Even up into the 11th and 12th century, they built beautiful Ethiopian Orthodox Christian churches. I talked about St. George's for a minute that are carved out of the stone in the mountains. And the Ethiopian Orthodox Church still speaks in Gez, which is the original language of Ethiopia. But those trade routes brought conflict. They actually brought the plague from the Byzantine Empire, and we know how that works out when you trade globally. And their impact on African history is not diminished, but their time as a civilization was.